ever stayed up until 4 a.m. refreshing Wattpad for the next chapter of a fic about your favorite band, congratulations, your web publishing looks the way it does today. Fanfiction built modern romance and publishing culture, and no one wants to admit it. But hey, I'm Rachel D. Oak, Wattpad veteran, an author who still can't resist a morally gray guy who may or may not look like the drummer of your favorite emo 2000s band. In this episode, we're talking nostalgia, we're talking tropes, we're talking fanfic, DNA, and marketing, my personal author journey, and all of the stigma that goes into it. Strap in, folks, we're starting strong, talking about how fanfic is basically a gateway drug. And I know this for a fact because it all started with Tumblr. It always starts in that little corner where fandoms go to thrive, like a bad bacteria infection that just keeps growing. And I was the bacteria. I went on Tumblr sharing little memes about Doctor Who, snippets of the Vampire Diaries. Next thing I knew, I was in a rabbit hole of Kellic mess. And if you're unfamiliar with Kellic, oh god, you really weren't an emo kid, were ya? But then again, I do need to give you a little bit of context. It was a very particular corner of the internet who shipped singers of the band Pierce the Veil and Sleeping with Sirens. With a little bit of distance now, I can realize how weird it was that we were reading about two actual people, not just fictional characters, and we were writing them as well. Regardless, what started off as just cute memes and little things about just loving two bands that a lot of the people that I grew up around didn't know about quickly delved into late nights reading Wattpad, AO3, fanfiction.net, and other obscure websites that I don't think even exist anymore. To no one's surprise, it led me to some of the wildest fics that I can hint at, but I cannot give you details, because I'm pretty sure some of the things I read were illegal to even read, let alone write, one of which included a band member getting kidnapped by another as a minor, kept in a basement, developing some sort of Stockholm syndrome, and then falling in love, and then getting purposefully kidnapped again. I know we talk a lot about weird dark romance and glamorization of crimes, but that was like pretty dark and would definitely not pass the publishing industry's standards with flying colors. There was a reason that was buried deep on a random ass Tumblr website. Is there a statute of limitations on crimes like this? Because I feel like there should be. I don't want to incriminate myself. Anyway, yes. Fanfiction, at least when I grew up, felt absolutely outrageous. And at the same time, it was fearless and really freeing compared to traditional books. My mom would not let me read thrillers. When I was growing up, I was really into crime books, which makes a lot of sense why I like so much dark romance, because it does involve a level of criminal actions and behaviors. And God bless that woman, she was right not to let me read about some Norwegian woman getting shot in the woods. Unfortunately, it did mean that I went looking for that kind of content elsewhere. So when I stopped being able to sneak read a thriller and marking the pages with a single strand of hair so my mom wouldn't notice, I moved on to online world. It was kind of like a secret library for me, and it was completely unmonitored because, let's be honest, our parents did not know what was going on online. We mock a lot the iPad generation these days about how kids are being raised by screens, but at least parents are aware of the kind of content that their kids can see and interact with online and how easy it is to access it. My mom was absolutely clueless. My teachers, any sort of parental adult figure in my life, completely unaware of the content that I was consuming, for better or for worse. Because sincerely, why did a free website with bad grammar give us better stories than half the stuff on bookstore shelves? Granted, the premises were insane, but you can't deny that they were well written. There's a reason why people often joke online about, I've read books better written than this on AO3. Because genuinely, you got a lot of really good fiction online. It's where the vast majority of authors grew up and explored their writing chops. It was really a lab where tropes really went feral. There was no gatekeeping. You were anonymous, so you could literally write about anything, no matter how deranged it was. And you have all these built-in worlds. So as an author, you didn't have to try and develop this entire universe. You also came in with a built-in audience because of this. Fandom is fandom because a specific piece of fiction has so many fans. So you could quite simply go in, grab a character that was already beloved, and write a story about it and be guaranteed that at least a couple of people would be willing to give your story a shot. As a new author, that makes a lot of sense why that was so appealing. You didn't have to reinvent the wheel, and you didn't have to go out there and search for readers. Readers found you through the blessed world of tags. And at the same time, there's so many tropes that we today undoubtedly owe to fanfiction. Like age gap tropes, why choose, reverse harem, dom sub relationships, sort of BDSM content. Fanfictions imported them into the nowadays romance books that we get. The BookTok tropes that everybody loves to hashtag these days and make memes about, it's basically fanfiction DNA with better lighting. And can we really mock Wattpad when half of BookTok is literally just fanfic with prettier covers? Because that's another thing. It's very easy for us to mock the low quality content that was being put out in places like Wattpad, AO3, fanfiction.net. But it's not like things got a lot better now. They just got better marketing and a bigger audience to market to. Fanfiction really trained us for what is BookTok and Bookstagram and Book YouTube. The comments, the kudos, the parasocial intimacy all started there. You could actually speak to authors. You could ask very specific questions about your characters. You had a direct line to your favorite authors. Sure, they weren't traditionally published authors and they didn't have the real world credibility, but it didn't matter to you because you could build that intimacy online in a way that made them feel like your friends. And with the rise of social media, especially in the last couple of years, I do believe a lot of indie authors did pick that up first and traditional authors followed. As in, indie authors understood that the audiences craved that sort of connection. The ability to speak to the people who wrote the amazing worlds you built. And so they took to social media and were able to create content and answer to people and have a very direct one-on-one conversation, obviously while the world watched. That got so much interaction and really propelled a lot of indie authors to the main stage, to best-selling lists. So the rest of the industry kind of followed, and traditional authors realized, oh, this is a really great marketing channel that I can own. And like all good things come to an end, suddenly traditional publishing came in and was like, we can make money out of this, so let's force all of our traditional published authors to have a social media account or social media following, or do the opposite and find somebody with a big social media following in the book world and give them a book deal. And we've seen this play out tons of times. The problem now is what started as authentic, that reader culture, has become very copy-paste. It lacks any of the authenticity. The reason authors did it in the first place, from fanfiction to indie authors to social media, was because it was an authentic way to connect. And it was also a really nice way to connect to your readers and make sure that people reading your stuff actually loved it. Like, you could actually implement feedback. And you could also give yourself a bit of a pat on the back, a bit of a confidence boost, because finally you had people saying, hey, I actually like your stuff and what you're doing is good, even if the gatekeepers of the world won't give you a publishing deal. When you bring in the forces of traditional marketing into it, then you lose that authenticity, then you lose that fun, and suddenly having that parasocial relationship that used to be mutually beneficial feels fake. And we inevitably swing to the other side of the pendulum where we might respect an author without a social media presence more. That being said, there's a couple of fanfic DNA things that I wish could be imported into more books. Specifically, I really yearn for Wattpad comment sections. What if Kindle had Wattpad style live comments? Would we ever leave the Kindle at home? Never. It would be glued to us, like permanently surgically embedded. There is something so communal about reading a sentence, giggling, kicking your feet, being absolutely feral, then going into the comment sections and seeing everybody else be as deranged as you and be as insane and as excited as you. It was like a giant book club happening in real life. And if on the odd chance that anybody that works for Amazon or for Kindle is listening to this, figure out a way to bring us comments, please. None of us would say no to it. We would band together and probably start a small revolution in the comment sections of some of these books. And as an author, I would absolutely love it too. Like, I would jump on those comments so fast just to see what people are saying, because it's such a good way to gouge how the thing that you worked so hard for to make funny is perceived. It's a bit like when you make a comment on a post and everybody likes your comment and replies to it, and you feel very seen. You feel like, oh, I'm not just funny in my head, other people are with me on this. To be able to get that as an author, oh my god, the confidence boost, the serotonin that would deliver. Good lord. And while we're at it, I see a lot of Wattpad in my own author journey. A lot of the thread of fanfic being translated into my books. I love really angsty books that are broken up with tons of humor, tons of really funny side characters. Everything goes wrong for them, but they still bring out a dry humor, a bad joke. Even the way I tend to write stories, often about musicians and about bands and about interpersonal relationships and difficulties of that world, it is very straight out of Wattpad. And I'm not ashamed of the Wattpaddy vibes. I wear that as a badge of honor. I'm pretty sure the back cover of Lavender Bay, my first book, literally says, if you like Wattpaddy angst, this is the place to be. And I say that with a straight face. I am so proud of what I've been able to achieve and what fanfiction taught me. Even just reading fanfiction, not even writing it, taught me so much. Growing up, the literary advice that I would get at school just never fit. To me, it never clicked. I always knew I loved books, but I never could see myself as a writer or even imagine a career as an author because I just kept comparing myself to the things we were being taught at school. And I'm like, I just don't write like that. That's not the stories that interest me. That's not the stories that keep me up at night. That's not the kind of thing that I'm reading at a disgusting ill pace. Whereas when I did finally find fanfiction, it finally clicked for me that these were stories that I saw myself reflected in, my passions reflected in, my style reflected in. And even fanfiction authors were out here giving advice about writing, and it gave me so much in regards to this is how to actually pace your story. This is how to actually introduce a new character from outside of this world in a way that makes people invested. This is how to build a parallel universe. Still sucks you in even though it's not your original fandom. You know? Those are things that I consciously carry out because they were good writing advice. And even the way I market my books, the way I try to make it very community first and talk to people, and the videos I post, I'm not constantly talking about my books. I'm talking about what it was like to grow up as a Tumblr girly, about the bands that I like, about the fact that I was writing gay smut with strawberry glitter pen when I was in French class at 13. Like, that's 1000% fanfiction bloodline in my marketing because that's what my books are about, but it's also what I'm about and what I think the people reading my books would relate to and connect to. Anyway, I could do an entire episode all about marketing as an indie author because I have a lot of experience with social media and earned media in a professional level. So if that's something you'd enjoy or you have questions about, feel free to leave me a comment. I'd be happy to dive into it in the next podcast episode. But bringing it back a little bit about stigma and respectability politics, if you will. Critics and just general people who did not grow up with fics tend to dismiss it as lesser than. They tend to dismiss any best-selling book that came from a author as bad when it's really not. I see it as a lot of elitism and ageism and not at all about quality. You can't deny fic-shaped best-selling authors, period. There are books being sold today that originated as fan fiction. 50 Shades of Grey is Twilight fanfiction. The Love Hypothesis or the Love Theory or whatever, it's Star Wars fanfiction. There was an author that I really liked when I was younger, and she wrote some of the most gut-wrenching fanfictions that were funny and made you cry and made you binge read like a mother chucker. And nowadays, she is a full-on published author with incredible books out there. But her start was in fanfiction. The authors you love right now, historically speaking, have dabbled in fanfiction, and making it seem like they are just not as good as other authors is ridiculous. It really is just ageism, because what do you mean? It's what we grew up in. I know for a fact if AO3 was around during Shakespearean times, that man would have been the #1 writer. He would have broken the internet. And also, As a reader, we know that the expectations when we pick up The Hobbit or we pick up a book by Sarah J. Maas are not going to be the same. We're not expecting the same style of writing, the same style of pacing, but both of them serve a purpose. Both of them deliver the kind of entertainment we want at the time. So if we could just stop pretending that one is less than the other, that would be really, really lovely. In short, without fanfiction, BookTok doesn't exist. Publishing 1000% deserves Fanfiction an apology, because it's literally shaping some of the best-selling books that are out there. And if you laughed, cried, or screamed at 3 a.m., congratulations, you trained for this moment. This is your time to shine, child. We've got Fanfiction Anonymous book club on the Substack, and we share and talk about tropes and stuff like that. So if you're into that, make sure you check out my Substack, which I will leave in the show notes. Check out Lavender Bay on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited if you want a Wattpad-rooted story, and I'll see you on socials at the author H. My DMs are open, and I'll look forward to chatting with you. See you next week!